Hello everyone and welcome to Through Africa, where we discuss Africa in detail. I am your host, Mercy Bamigbola. Since 2020, West Africa has witnessed an upkeep in successful and foiled coup attempts. Most recently, Benin Republic has placed Kande Dazanae, the former defense minister and prominent opposition politician, in pre-trial detention as part of investigation into the coup. Earlier this month, the Republic of Benin experienced a serious political shock when an attempted military coup briefly disrupted the country's sense of stability. In the early hours of December 7, a group of soldiers appeared on national television claiming they had seized power, dissolved the government, and removed President Patrice Talon from office. The announcement immediately created uncertainty across the country, particularly in Cotonou, Benin's largest city and economic center, where residents reported sporadic gunfire and heightened military movement. The group, identifying itself as a military committee for a foundation, justified its actions by pointing to political tensions ahead of the 2026 elections. But their control proved short-lived. Within hours, the Beninese government responded, stating that loyal forces had successfully neutralized the mutiny and regained full control of strategic institutions, including the state broadcaster. Authorities confirmed that President Talon was safe and remained firmly in power, emphasizing that constitutional order had not been broken. In a televised address later that day, the president reassured citizens, praising the armed forces for their loyalty and warned that those involved would face justice. Security services arrested several soldiers suspected of participating in the attempt, while others were reported to have fled towards neighboring countries, prompting continued security operations. The crisis also triggered a swift regional response, with the economic community of West African states expressing strong support for Benin's elected government and condemning the attempted takeover. Nigeria, a key regional power, reportedly provided military assistance, underscoring ECOWAS's growing resolve to prevent further unconstitutional changes of government in West Africa. International actors, including the United Nations, African Union, and the European Union, echoed this condemnation, stressing that coups undermine democratic institutions and regional stability. Analysts note that while the attempt failed, it reflects broader challenges facing the region, where political polarization, governance concerns, and security pressures have contributed to a wave of military interventions in recent years. For Benin, long viewed as one of West Africa's more stable democracies, the incident serves as a warning sign. As the country moves closer to its upcoming elections, attention will now focus on how authorities address underlying political tensions, reinforce civilian control over the military, and restore public confidence to ensure that democratic order remains intact. Also in Kenya, a newly signed health cooperation agreement with the United States has been thrown into uncertainty after a high court ruling temporarily suspended its implementation, sparking a nationwide debate over data privacy, sovereignty, and access to healthcare. The agreement, signed in early December 2025 in Washington, was presented by both governments as a landmark government-to-government partnership aimed at strengthening Kenya's public health system, improving disease surveillance, and supporting the fight against HIV and AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis through long-term, predictable funding estimated to run into billions of dollars over several years. President William Ruto and U.S. officials described the framework as a shift away from traditional aid models, with funds flowing directly to Kenyan state institutions rather than international NGOs, a move that they said would actually improve efficiency, accountability, and national ownership of health programs. However, shortly after the signing, civil society groups led by the Consumer Federation of Kenya, with support from activist politicians, filed a legal petition arguing that the deal was concluded without sufficient public participation or parliamentary oversight, and raised serious concerns about the handling of sensitive health data. In response, the High Court issued conservatory orders halting any steps related to the transfer, sharing, or dissemination of medical, epidemiological, and personal health data under the agreement until the matter itself is fully heard, with the next hearing expected in early 2026. Petitioners argue that health data is a national asset protected under Kenya's Constitution, Data Protection Act, and Digital Health Act, and one that inadequate safeguards could expose citizens to privacy violations or undermine national sovereignty. The Kenyan government and US officials have pushed back strongly against these claims, insisting that only aggregated, non-identifiable data would be shared, that personal medical records would remain protected, and that all cooperation would operate strictly within the Kenyan law. Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale and President Ruto have both defended the agreement, saying it underwent legal review and poses no threat to citizens' rights. Meanwhile, the court's suspension has alarmed health workers and unions who warn that delays could disrupt critical services, stall planned recruitment of thousands of healthcare workers, and affect patients relying on donor-supported programs, promoting some unions to consider legal action to have the freeze lifted. Beyond Kenya, the dispute reflects wilder global changes in U.S. foreign health assistance as Washington restructures aid delivery towards direct bilateral partnerships, a strategy supporters say strengthens national systems, but critics fear may weaken transparency, rights-based services, and public oversight. And for now, the future of the Kenya-US Health Cooperation Framework remains in legal limbo as the country weighs the balance between international partnerships, urgent public health needs, constitutional safeguards, and public accountability, with the court's final decision expected to shape not only this agreement, but the direction of Kenya's health governance for years to come. Now, Turkey's defense industry is steadily expanding its footprint across the African continent, opening a new chapter in Turkey-Africa cooperation. This momentum was clearly reflected in Bamako Expo, known as Bamex 25, held for the first time in Mali's capital, Bamako. The event, which brought together only Turkish defense industry companies, quickly drew international attention, welcoming more than 90 senior military delegations from over 25 countries. Organized under the auspices of the Malian Presidency and the Ministry of Civil Security, the expo took place from November 11 to 14 and marked a significant milestone for defense cooperation in the region. Despite being a first-time event, Bamex 25 exceeded expectations, generating over $150 million in potential export opportunities. Each day, more than 1,200 visitors passed through the exhibition halls, including military officials, government representatives, and industry experts. Turkish companies showcased a broad range of advanced technologies, from electro-optical systems and secure communication solutions to border security equipment, ballistic protection, and unmanned aerial vehicles. These displays highlighted not only technological capabilities, but also Turkey's growing experience in meeting real-world security needs. BAMEX chairman Harun Saraç described the strong interest as a reflection of trust in Turkish defense products. He emphasized that the Turkish companies are increasingly preferred in Africa for their reliable performance, timely delivery, and cost-effective solutions. Looking ahead, Saraç announced plans to expand the expo in 2026, extending it to 4 days and welcoming a wider international presence. Countries include China, Russia, India, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and several European nations have already expressed interest in participating with their own national pavilions. Experts note that BAMEX is more than just a trade fair. It has become a platform for building long-term partnerships between Turkey and African countries in the field of defense and security. While strengthening Turkey's presence on the continent, the expo also supports African nations in developing their own defense capacities. With the planned expansion of BAMEX 26, the event is expected to grow into a key meeting point for defense cooperation, symbolizing a deeper and more strategic Turkey-Africa partnership. And with that, we have come to the end of today's episode of Through Africa. I am your host, Mercy Bamigbola. I'll see you in the next one. But if you would like to send us questions or suggestions on the show as you have seen today, you can kindly do so on our WhatsApp number, which is always on the screen. Again, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe and goodbye.